Welcome to the Captain's Run with the great Cameron Smith and myself. Everyone listening, 1170 in Sydney, 1620 on the Gold Coast, 693 SENQ. Download the app. Make sure to download the app so you can listen to us anytime on the Google Play Store or the App Store on our Apple phones. Or you can listen belatedly on Spotify and Apple. You follow the Captain's Run. But I have to ask the great man, Cam, how you been, mate?
Kempy, mate, I'm fantastic. I am fantastic. I'm very much looking forward to the footy this weekend. Still spots up for grabs in the top 8. And it all kicks off with a beauty tonight, mate. Para versus Melbourne. How good? How good? If you're not fired up about footy this time of the year, I don't know what you're doing.
Honestly, and this year, the top 8, I think it's like there's only been 4 other years where in the last round that someone has come into the top 8. So,
really? Okay.
Yeah, so I saw a stat during the week where this and 4 other times the last round has dictated the final spot in the top 8. Now, it doesn't usually happen.
Mm.
So incredible year of footy. But
are your boys going to make it?
Oh no!
We've hit a nerve already. We're a minute in
already. He's hit me low already, Smithy. Seriously, I wanted to warm into it. I wanted to just get my bearings, emotionally stabilise.
Okay,
and
sorry.
You've broken me heart. You've broken me hard.
Well, we're gonna dig into them right now, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
All right.
Because it gets worse. It gets worse. So big news. Tyson Gamble, who reportedly is signed with the Knights. Reportedly, it's not confirmed yet, but it looks like he's going to the Knights. Strangely, also, well, not strangely, but the timing is a bit strange. Ironically, he actually got called into the first grade side, and Mam has been dropped from it for this weekend. But Tyson Gamble has gone on a podcast and. Maybe being a little bit too honest. I don't know. Let me know what you think, Smithy, after we listen to what he said.
Like, Kevy's the coach, but Reno is like the go-to guy for everybody. Like, if you've got a question about like the team or like footy, you go to him. And it's sort of not a knock on Kev, but like Reno's just been around for so long, and Kevy understands footy, and he's a good bloke at getting the team up and about, but like. The modern day is so different to the way Kevy played footy. There's sort of some similarities in how you've got to be with attitude and stuff, but yeah, Reno's the mastermind.
Wow. Yeah. So
wow. So is he almost saying that Reno's the one that coaches the side? Is that what Tyson's saying there? I don't know. It's harder. You don't like to try and get inside the brain of Tyson Gamble there and try and say what he's trying to say. But he's almost saying, well, Kevy, he played that long ago. He doesn't really understand the modern game. So Reno's the go-to man for all of the team and all the players and for our footy. Kev's good with some stuff around our mindset and attitude, but, Reno's really the man that runs the ship. Is that what he's saying?
Honestly, it sounds like it. It seriously sounds like it.
Wow.
I want to get your thoughts first, Smithy, as a leader of a club. And what's really interesting is I'm sure you've been in a position a lot where young players or other players have come to you and asked your advice on certain things, but I don't think you'd ever be like, I'm the guy,
No.
But anyway, I want to get your thoughts.
No, and to be fair, I don't think Adam Reynolds would be that type of person either. To say, hey, listen, forget about what Kev's saying. Just listen to what I'm doing. Let's just do what I want to do. I don't think he'd be that type of person either. But yeah, it's strange to hear. It's strange to hear players come out and say that about their coach. It's something that, personally, I would never speak about publicly, even if I had that opinion. Even if I had that opinion of my coach, and that he didn't really do a lot of work as far as our game plan was concerned, or any of our strategies, or the technical aspect of the game, you still wouldn't say that publicly. So I don't know. Is this part of what's gone wrong with the Broncos over the last 4 weeks? We don't know, but yeah, it's quite a strange thing to hear Tyson Gamble come out and talk that way about Kevy Walters, who's meant to be he is the head coach of the Broncos. And then to sort of say that, well, no, he's not really the go-to person at our club when we want to talk about footy. It's actually our number 7 and our captain, Adam Reynolds.
It hurts. It hurts because even if, as I agree, Smithy, even if you think that in the current state that the club is in and everything that we're going through, it's the last thing that we need. Even if, let's say Tyson was coming from a really good spot and he didn't really realise the ramifications of what he was saying, and he was more just saying, look, like in regards to the day-to-day stuff, you can just quickly go to Reynolds.
Yep.
The overseeing is more Kevy's job. Whether it was said poorly or not, it's just the timing of it, because we are under the pump. We are under the pump as a club. We need everything, more than everything, to go right. It's mission impossible. And then to say Kevy Walters, kind of takes a backward step, or just because there's more to the quote. So after that, he basically said, he emphasised he had no personal issues with Walters, which is weird. Why would you need to emphasise that anyway? Yeah.
Yeah.
Then Gamble went on to say, we have a lot of assistant coaches that take over. I'm not saying Kevy takes a backward step, but he knows what to say and when to say it and when to get involved. It has worked well this year. He has allowed us to do what we want to do, but when it's gone too far, he has reined us back in and said, pull your heads in and stick to the basics. And so it's disappointing because, as I said, not only is the head coach, he's a club legend that's won 6 premierships.
Yeah, that's right.
6 premierships.
Yeah, that's right. He's won 1. It was 1 at the Raiders and 5 at the Broncos, I believe. So he's a man with great experience, and he's clearly understands what it takes to win big matches. And what he does understand is that football club and what it is to be a Bronco, to be a Broncos player, and the type of football and the type of people that they are in that organisation. I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of talk around Tyson Gamble and his possibility of moving to the Knights. Maybe he knows. Maybe he knows he's moving on. He's going down to Newcastle, and this might be just a little backhander on the way out. I don't. It sounds a little bit like that. And let's not forget he hasn't been picked in first grade for several weeks now. So I don't know. There might have been just a little backhander on his way out the door.
Which is surprising, because it's like you just got called back into first grade, even if you are on your way out. So Kevy's done you a favour.
Well, we don't know. We don't know when was that podcast recorded. It may have been recorded a week ago, Kempy. I don't know. Or was it done yesterday? I don't know. I'd suggest that that podcast was recorded before Tyson was named to play this week. Imagine him sitting at home thinking, "Oh no, that podcast, it's coming out."
Oh man, And another thing as well that, I hope he wasn't coming from a bad place. I hope it was from a place of youthful ignorance and kind of not understanding.
And as you said, mate, like the wording, he just got the wording wrong.
For sure, I hope so, because I can empathise if you're a bit younger and you don't understand, certain ways you have to respect club legends, like certain things you can and can't say, or certain things that you may not understand. Or let's say, for example, you think that he doesn't understand the modern game. Let's just assume that, even though I don't agree with that.
Yep.
As you get older, you realise, even if I think that, I'm probably wrong, because that's a club legend that has achieved way more than I have.
Yeah.
So I have no right to say something like that.
Yeah, and you show a bit more respect.
Exactly. And so when you're a bit younger, you might say things like that, and I'm hoping that that's the place it comes from in regards to Tyson.
And Kempy, look, I've been coached by Kevy at State of Origin level. Like when Mal Meninga moved on and took on the role as head coach of the Kangaroos, Kevy Walters took over as coach of Queensland. And he did a fantastic job there. And it's a very different environment, of course, coaching representative football and you're coaching the elite players, as all State of Origin players are. A completely different environment. But he was a part of our game plan building. He was a part of previewing the opposition and breaking down some weaknesses that we felt we could attack and some things that we wanted to make sure that we were good at, that we were going to face when we played the Blues. So, I don't know. Again, I just feel it's really strange to say that, that Kevy, because he played so long ago, he doesn't really have an understanding of the modern game. It's a strange call. But the drag, there might be a late change. There might be a late scratching for the Broncos number 6. they don't play till Saturday
mate.
5:30, Kempy. So who knows? Ezra might get another call up.
And the irony of it all, and I'm sure he definitely didn't mean this, is that if you say that Reynolds is the go-to man, you're almost saying then he's the one the reason why we're going so bad. You know what I mean? Like, if Reynolds is, you know what I mean?
Right,
because we've just had a disaster. We have had a disaster. And then you come out and say, yeah, Reynolds a guy.
Yeah.
So you're actually not helping Renault at all because then it's like on Reynolds' shoulders that the reason why we've made certain decisions or whatever. So anyway, but I just wanted to ask you, Smithy, do you think there's been conflicting reports. Now, I've chosen to just kind of, because we don't have confirmation, I haven't said
Definitely
that much
say,
on it.
Yep.
Yeah, but there's conflicting reports. There's some reports that have come out and said that a couple of players were upset with Kevy. He's had a spray during the week and then a spray after their loss.
Yep.
But then Sattler on SEN Network earlier this week came out and said that is not true. He's being told that didn't happen. But then we see, quotes like this come out and you go, ooh, okay. So do you think this is evidence of something, the problem at the Broncos?
Well, there's something has gone wrong. There has to have something's going. It's gone wrong, and something going on at that footy club because not that long ago, what was it? Only 4 to 6 weeks ago, this footy team they were sitting fourth, so they were on the verge of turning their a diabolical last 2 years around with a not only a finals berth, they had the opportunity to finish top 4. Now, a lot of people were talking about, the downfall over the last 4 weeks has been because Pat Carrigan has been suspended and he hasn't been available. Well, okay, it makes things a little bit harder. Okay, it makes things a little bit harder without Patrick Carrigan there. We all know the quality of player that Patrick Carrigan is and what he brings to that footy side. But you can't tell me that one man makes a difference to that footy side in the way that they've performed, particularly over the last 2 weeks. They've conceded 113 points in 2 matches, Kempy. Patrick Carrigan is not going to change that.
Oh, mate.
That stat.
I tell you what.
With all due respect to Paddy Carrigan, as good as he is, he's not going to turn around that 113 points that they conceded in 2 games.
Absolutely. I tell you what does Paddy? How many tackles do you reckon Paddy makes a game? About 30 to 40.
Yeah, let's just say he averages 30, 35 tackles.
So, do you think that we missed? This is how much we missed the Broncos over the past two weeks. We missed over 100 tackles.
Yeah.
So, regardless of what you think, he's not making those tackles anyway.
That's right. So they missed 66 against Melbourne, and then against Parramatta, I think it was 54 or 55. It's just that's not down on troops. That's a lack of
it's a bad attitude.
Well, I was going to say a lack of intent and a lack of just attitude to go out there and play well. Like they were playing. Their season was on the line. They were trying to confirm a finals position a couple of weeks ago, and they never looked like they wanted to be there. They didn't look like they wanted to be on the park at periods in that game. And you can tell directly from the way teams approach their defence. They're as you said, mate, their attitude to defend was so poor. Like they were reaching, they were grabbing, like no one was trying to get their bodies in front of other opposition players. And then when they had the football, it was like, well, okay, well, I hope someone does something. I don't know. Something's gone wrong there, and I'm not too sure, but it's been a quick decline over the last month. From where they were, they've been so good. Up to 4 weeks ago, they were so good up until that point, and then they fell off the cliff. They walked up the edge of a cliff and just fell straight off it.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I would go as far to say I think there's actually been something that's gone wrong because if there are things slowly festering, that's usually a slow decline. But they've literally gone massive game against the Eels and then just gone, boom, gone.
Well, that was Patrick Carrigan. He played in that game where they lost to West Tigers, and unfortunately that's where he was suspended out of that game. But he was a part of that match, and they were getting beaten convincingly by the Tigers, and that's where it all went wrong for them. Like, so they play in Sydney the week previous and have a really a great performance down against Parramatta, and you'd be thinking, well, yeah, they're going to go on with it now. If you can travel to Sydney and play so well, then you're going to come home and you're playing against a team running last. I just think they had the mindset that they were travelling far better than what they were actually going. And they may have just got a little bit too comfortable.
Yeah, mate, I absolutely agree. We are going to head to a break. After the break, we're going to talk about rugby union. Is it going to come through the ranks of the NRL and take our superstars? We're also going to talk about the big Nelson Asafa-Solomona and Hargreaves and Collins and that huge clash between the Storm and the Roosters and the Outfall, plus the new stadium, Roosters versus the Rabbitohs. Cannot wait for it. See you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with the great Cameron Smith. Make sure to give us a call, 1300 01 1170 or text 0457 736 736. We've got Chad on the line. Chad, you there, mate?
Sure am, mate. How are you?
How we going, Chad?
Smith, how are you? How are you, mate?
Good, mate. What do you got for us today?
Well, obviously from Penrith, I'm a Mighty Panthers supporter.
Righto.
So it might be a bit of a dumb question, but I want to ask you boys what you think of the Panthers' chances in the finals going back-to-back, and who do you reckon we sort of have to watch out for the most?
Yeah, look, I think you got a pretty good chance, mate. I think, once again, they've shown that they are the team to beat this year. That's why they've taken out the minor premiership already. And I think with so many players being rested this week with the long travel up to Townsville, I just think they're going to be fresh and ready to go for that first week. Now they're going to take on they'll be taking on the winner of the match tonight, whether it's Parramatta or Melbourne. They do have the benefit though of playing that first game at home at Penrith, which will be huge. I'm guessing it'll be a sellout. But to the point of your question around what do they have to watch out for, it's Parramatta, I believe. If Parramatta get past Melbourne tonight and take out fourth spot, well, they are the side. They're the only team to beat them twice this year, Penrith. Yeah. And I know the second match that they played was against 12 men for the majority of the game, which they won. But they took his on early in the year, mate, at Penrith and come away with a really strong victory. So I think that would be the main concern for Penrith, is that they finish first but then face Parramatta, who would have that little bit of psychological advantage over them. Not that I don't think your footy side would be too concerned about that, but I'm sure to be in the back of their mind that, hey, this is a side that they've come up with a plan and a style of footy that they know how to beat us. That would be my only concern for Penrith.
No, I totally agree with you there. It's always going to be nerve-wracking no matter who you come up against. Fingers crossed the boys can get it done.
Are you excited? Hey, Chad, are you excited to see some of these youngsters take on the Cowboys this weekend?
Yeah, I am actually. I've tipped them only out of loyalty, tip me boys.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see how we go, and I'd really like to see them at least keep the Cowboys, within close range, even if we only go down by a couple.
Yeah.
Obviously, it'd be great to win, but it'll be interesting to see how they go.
Well, they could.
Reserve grade boys.
Yeah, because your reserve grade, they're in finals as well, mate, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they come second. I think I think Newtown or something won.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, no.
I think they came second.
Yeah, your New South Wales Cup side, they've had a great season as well. So, good luck to them. It's a great opportunity to play a bit of first grade, and I'm sure they'll go out there and do well.
Yeah, sounds good. I can't wait. And Kempy, I jumped on your website about 20 minutes after the drop, and I already sold out.
Oh, no.
Mate, the people
hot
were
cakes.
absolutely frothing.
They go like hot
for
cakes.
the jerseys. Mate, seriously, it's a really tough one because we order those jerseys months and months in advance, and we ordered a lot, a lot, and you just don't know. You don't want to be stuck with a bunch of stock. So we're trying to get our numbers right. I will say, though, we've already got next year's design sorted, and it is an absolute banger. It might be better than the original. So stay tuned. Magic Round next year is when we'll be dropping them, bro.
Ooh, get in quick, Chad.
Awesome. Can't wait. Good on you, fellas.
Good on you, mate.
Brother. Thanks for calling, Chad.
Hey, Kempy, what do you think just on Penrith? Like they're resting 11 players this week, and then they go into week 1 either against Melbourne or Para. What do you think their chances are?
Well, it's really interesting. I actually so obviously the Eels, but I actually think Roosters might also be a bit of a not a smoky to beat the Panthers because like they're a top tier side. But if you go back and watch their last game, I'm pretty sure the Panthers had a full strength side. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
No, they did.
They did.
I'm pretty sure they did, mate. Yep.
Yep. And it was at home, and it was against the Roosters, and a few really tough calls went against the Roosters.
Yeah, well, the Roosters were on top, right? And leading into, I remember this game exactly. I was sitting at the ground watching it, and the referee penalised Sam Verrills for a tackle, and he said that he put the ball carrier in a dangerous position. Now, it was a tackle that you taught as a 7-year-old child to say when a big man's running at you, just wrap their legs and let their momentum, go over the top. Just fall backwards using their momentum. And he made a tackle like that.
Oh.
And the Penrith player went straight over the top of him and then landed sort of his head first in the turf, which happens at times in rugby league. But he was penalised, and then I think it was like 3 or 4 plays later, Kikau went down and scored right on the stroke of half time, which put them ahead. And I think it took a lot of wind out of the sails of the Roosters. But you're right, mate. They were well and truly in that game.
So yeah, they could be the smoky. But we've got Ethan from Redfern. How you there, mate?
Hey mate, how are you?
Very good, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm just down at Redfern Oval watching the boys train. Just got here from Brisbane.
Oh, love, big effort, mate.
How's Cam looking? I bet you're good.
Oh mate, he's great. He's having a little stretch on the ground.
You should get out there and help him stretch the hemis out, mate. Get on there,
Yeah,
Reece.
give him a rub. Yeah.
Oh, what do you got for us, mate?
With 3 of our key players in Cook, Walker, and Mitchell being off contract at the end of next year, do you think Wayne Bennett will be able to snag any of the boys, bring them back into the Finns?
What do you reckon, Smithy?
Well, there's talk already, isn't there, around Latrell Mitchell? And I know Wayne come out and said, "Oh, look, we're chasing Cam Munster, but if we miss him, I really want Latrell." I think Latrell, we spoke about this on our show last week, Kempy, but he has that sense of belonging at the Rabbitohs, I feel, and that he's quite committed to the Bunnies. But he seems to build, Wayne, really strong connections with his players. He really does, and I think they form this bond with him that they enjoy spending time with him and being coached by him. So, look, we spoke about this trio, didn't we, last week, and what their future would look like, and the possibility of them sitting down, having a conversation about their future, and just saying, "Hey, boys, like, do we want to try and stick together here?" And what will we have to do to make that happen? But look, if it doesn't pan out, I would not be surprised to see, one, if not more of those players try to reconnect with Wayne Bennett. I wouldn't be surprised at all, Ethan.
Yeah, right. But hopefully we can keep him.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do know that the positive in Rabbitoh's favours in regards to Latrell and Cody, they are super, super tight. And I know Latrell really respects Cody and he really appreciates everything that he does. So it's going to be interesting because at least one of them, unless they all take a little bit of a pay cut, at least one of them is going to have to take not massive unders, but I'd assume, substantial unders. I personally think, if I'm a betting man, I actually think Cook might be a potential one that could leave, because I just get the feeling that he may be able to get a bit more elsewhere. I'm not sure. Whereas I think the Cody Latrell connection will be able to keep them in the club. But what I will say though is that if I had to bet, I would say that they all stay. I really think they're going to stay. So if that eases your fears at all, I hope it does.
So that'll get me to sleep tonight, Kempy.
Good on you, mate.
Thanks for calling, mate. Appreciate it.
All right, cheers, boys. Have a good one.
Thanks, mate. We're going to head to the news. After the news, we're going to talk about rugby raiding the ranks of the NRL, but we're also going to talk about the huge Storm Roosters clash on the weekend. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Now, Smithy, I mean, what a game it was. The Roosters versus the Storm. An incredible game last week. We saw the big fellas going at it. Now, there's been a lot of hoopla about, some people thinking that, why is Nelson only getting fined and he hasn't been suspended? And then other people saying, well, hang on a sec. There were two blokes. One was sent for 10 and the Roosters. That's the great Hargreaves. And Lindsay Collins was suspended for 4 weeks. Why are we talking about Nelson when they had actually had people sent for 10 and suspended for 4 weeks? First of all, your reaction from that match, Roosters Storm.
Oh, it was a great match. Great game of footy. Called that one on Channel 9. And look, it was built up to be a blockbuster, and it was. It was two highly competitive footy sides matched up against each other and both vying for, well, the Roosters were locking away a spot in the finals, in this year's finals, which they have done. And the Storm, well, they were trying to secure a top 4 spot. Playing at home, being their last home and away match at Amy Park, they also were it was a send-off night for Jesse and Kenny Bromwich, Felice Kafusi and, of course, Brandon Smith, who are moving to different clubs next year. So it was a big occasion for the Melbourne Storm at home. And, tempers flared up a little bit. There was a couple of little melees and pushes and shoves and a bit of brouhaha, but
oh yeah,
you know what? That's what makes our game so good. The fans love it. The fans love it. And I know the game and the officials are trying to stamp that type of stuff out of our sport these days, but I don't know. I think the fans actually love seeing a little bit of physicality and the big boys in particular getting a little bit aggro. I think that's what our sport's about. It's been built on that for over 100 years, and it's what separates us from every other sport. So I didn't mind it. I actually didn't mind it, and it was a good game of footy. I don't think the Storm were anywhere near their best, which you could probably, as a positive, you could say, well, they were nowhere near their best, yet they hung in there for the whole game and they were thereabouts at the end against Red Hot Roosters side. But the negative is of course, well, at what point are they going to get going? Considering they got a huge match tonight to try and secure a 4th spot, they get another opportunity to do that. And of course, they've lost their halfback. So what does that mean for their title hopes this year? So you can look at it both ways. For the Roosters, they just continued on their winning ways. I'll be honest, I did have question marks over them, given the teams that they played throughout that 6-game winning streak. I think they only beat one top 8 side in that 6 games, which was the Cowboys, and it was during a really tough week for them. But they proved me wrong. They went down to Melbourne and they attacked the game from the very beginning. And they looked like they had this really narrow focus to go out there and start the game like it was a final. And for them, it really was, because they were playing for their season. They were playing to be a part of the finals. It was fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. How good is it? I personally think that the top 8 quality compared to recent years. I'd even go in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And apologies if I'm forgetting a really strong year. But this top 8, I would make the argument that literally anyone in the top 8, and that's including the Raiders, could win the premiership. And I know the Raiders are massive outsiders.
Yes.
But they've beaten top 4 sides. They've beaten the Sharkies twice, I think. They've beaten the Cowboys. They've beaten the Storm. But anyway, back to the Roosters. And that's what's incredible, that it's crazy to think a side as good as that was playing for the top 8 in their second. You know what I mean? Like, they're that good, but they were still struggling to make the 8. That's how good the quality is in the top 8.
Yeah, that's right. And I agree with you, mate. I think Raiders, although they've beaten a couple of those top 4 sides, they are the outsiders of the top 8. And you'd almost put the Bunnies in them with them as well, but certainly compared to at least the last 2 seasons, I think any team in this top 8 at the moment, on their day, if they went out and just found their best football, if they make the grand final and found their best football, they can beat the other 7 teams. I completely agree with you, Kempy.
Yeah, absolutely. And whereas last year or the year before, you're like, mate, there's no way.
No,
not even close.
That's right, mate. You looked at the top 8 going into the finals, and you're like, well, Penrith, Melbourne, and maybe one other. Last year was the Rabbits. They went on that magical run at the end of the year and made their way to the grand final. But yeah, this year, well, you talk about Raiders, they've beaten Sharks and Cowboys. Parramatta, they've beaten both Penrith and the Storm. Roosters, they've knocked off the Storm. It's just, combos all over the place where every side has played each other at least once, sometimes twice, and they've all beaten each other at some stage.
Yeah, it's so exciting. But now let's get to the match review committee. So they introduced fines, which has drastically reduced the amount of suspensions by introducing fines.
Yep.
And so there has been a push by some players saying that it's a bit harsh fining some of the players that aren't on as much cash.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also been a push from the other side saying that it's actually more a deterrent to miss games than getting fined cash. Do you think that the match review committee has got it right with the fines, or do you think that they may need to, I guess, jig it a little bit?
Yeah, well, I reckon what fans are sort of up in arms about is that there's multiple discretions from players, and they just continue to be fined. I think that's what the players, that's what the fans are sort of up in arms about, and sort of a little bit confused. They're saying, well, how many fines can this player have until there's some action taken against him, for the things that he's doing on the field, and a lot of it's been around Big Nelson. I think you can throw Jared Weir-Hargreaves in there as well, with a bit of their sort of roughhouse tactics that they have. Again, big men, they're enforcers for their respective footy sides. It's a difficult one because they're just going by the book. They're going by the rules that the NRL have set out, and they're not particularly their actions that they're performing on the field. They're not particularly in a range of picking up a charge, and then from there getting suspended. They're just in the category of a fine. So maybe what they need to look at is okay, well, if you pick up multiple fines per year, once you get to a certain amount, well, that then brings a suspension. So if it's 3 fines or 4 fines, when you reach your 5th, that's a suspension. I'm not saying it's 5. I'm just tossing up a number here. It might be 3. Sure. It might be 3. You might get a fine, and then the third time, hey, that's a week.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that I like the ideas of the fines because, you want to try to keep your superstars on the field. There's no denying that. I actually do. But I also agree with you. If you keep fining someone and they keep doing it, it's like, well, hang on a sec.
Yeah.
At what point do we stop and go, this bloke is not being deterred at all?
Yeah, well, it's a little bit like your driver's license, right? So you with your driver's license, you can be fined, but at the same time you lose points as well on your license. So when you lose your 12 points that you have, your license then gets suspended. So maybe that's what we look at. Every fine that you pick up, you incur, say, a 2 or 3 point deduction as well. And then if that reaches, say, 10 points, okay, you've got 10 points, okay, well, now that's a week. You know what I'm saying?
It's like your license to kick as a front rower. It gets taken. It gets taken.
Yeah, but that's one offence. Front rowers, if they kick a footy and it's no good, that's it. The licence is gone forever. And there's no chance of getting it back.
Now we've got plenty of texts here. Dear Goat and Smithy, when is the Players Association, Clint Newton, the players part of the board, seriously going to come out and state some of these forearms, elbows to the head and hip drops, cannonballs are not in the spirit of the game? It's OH&S, workplace health and safety issue. Can they then have clubs sanction and fine clubs for repeated infringements and rule breaches? What power do they have? It's as if from the outside looking in, they don't care about injuries or how they happen, as it's just part of the game. That's from Dan Smithy.
Yeah, well, it's up to individuals really. There has not been a day in my playing career where we practiced dropping forearms or elbows to the head. We didn't practice hip drops as much as, some people in the media like to try and say that it is practiced. Cannonball, all this stuff. Okay, so it's completely up to the individual that make decisions in the moments in the games when they come in to make tackles. Now, if guys want to try and push the envelope a little bit and, throw their forearms and elbows around to try and make things uncomfortable for the opposition, then that's fine. But they run the risk of getting in trouble. And that's what we're talking about. It's completely up to the MRC. So if guys want to run the gauntlet and try and play a physical style of football, but they get it wrong, well, they suffer the consequences. That's as simple as it gets.
Yeah, look, I agree. It's really about the individual player. It'd be very hard to police it as from the RLPA. In regards to OH&S and workplace health and safety, it's like we're playing footy here. We're not in a normal workplace environment, so I'm not sure about that. But I understand where you're coming from, mate. Definitely see your concern for the players and appreciate it as well. Now, got another text here. Cheers. Good morning, Smithy and Kempy. What do you guys think about a pre-finals bye like they started doing in the AFL? Also, tried Bloke Midi on the weekend. Awesome drop. Cheers, mate. Nathan. Thanks, mate. Thanks. Bloke Midi, out now. In all liquor legends in New South Wales and ACT.
Really? The Midi's out?
Yeah, the Midi's out, mate.
Oh,
beautiful
how
drop.
good.
It's a beautiful drop. But, Smithy, what are your thoughts on the bye before the finals the AFL reportedly have introduced?
Yeah, they it's been in for a few years now. And I think they maybe it's a little bit like the NFL. I think because they play their playoffs and they have a week off before the Super Bowl, don't they? But they have there's like a big show that goes on in the build up to that Super Bowl week. But I think what it is just maybe to give those teams in the finals a chance to sort of get over any sort of bumps and bruises that they picked up through the season. Maybe try and have everyone on board as many as they can without, the guys with serious injuries that they've been carrying throughout the year or picked up throughout the year. I don't mind it. It makes the year drag on an extra week, but I guess it builds a suspense a little bit too around, that first finals weekend, which is this weekend for the AFL. And it gives everyone, I guess, some talking points around, team selection, the matchups of that first finals weekend, and just creates a little bit more noise for the sport.
I love it. I actually really like it because it builds the suspense into finals even more. You're sitting there absolutely frothing for footy. You're sitting there the weekend before, you're going, there's nothing to do, and the banter and the back and forth. I actually really like the idea of having a bye before finals footy, and plus, maybe you could use that week to do like media tours for each team in the finals. Because that, they'd be working, but they're not playing footy. They're resting and not going to get injured. So definitely love the idea of a bye before finals, because even some of the games we're watching this weekend, like Penrith, for example, let's say the top 8 was dictated. Well, it is actually. If the Cowboys win, the Sharks lose, the Cowboys get second. Some fans could say it's unfair that the Penrith Panthers are resting all those players because now the Cowboys have an easier shot to win their game. I really like the bye. Now we're going to head to a break, but after the break, we've got best hands thanks to Schnitz. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with the great Cameron Smith. We've got the best hands thanks to Schnitz, the best schnitzel in all the land. Absolutely beautiful, guys. If you've got a Schnitz near you, give it a try. I'm telling you, their burgers are beautiful. They've also got these little wraps. If you're not that hungry and you just want a little bite, you get a wrap.
Just a nibble.
And little nibble. You get a wrap with a schnitty in it. It's absolutely beautiful. But what's your best hands thanks to Schnitz, Smithy?
Yep. 3 nominees again. I'm going to give 1 point to Sean Lane. Well, he had an absolute blockbuster. Well, he's been playing so well the last month for Parramatta. Huge reason as to why they're playing so well. I'm sure he'll be in for another big one tonight. But Sean Lane's not just one offload. He had a couple that set up tries. One for Mike Acevo and Clint Gutherson to score against the Broncos. As I said, had a huge game, Sean Lane, so 1 point goes to him. 2 points goes to Kyle Felt for the way he scored that try after he chased his own kick. Did you see that? That just
Absolutely incredible.
outstanding work by Kyle Felt to score that try. 3 points though, and this is a little bit different. It's a use of hands, but not with the football. It was James Tedesco's try saver on Kenny Bromwich. So if Kenny Bromwich scores, Melbourne go on to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow, and I don't know how, and he had a little bit of help, but it was mainly Tedesco. He got underneath Kenny Bromwich to hold him up miraculously. Like the ball was inches from the ground. And there was a few other try savers, by the way, for the Roosters throughout that night, but that was at the death of the game. So 3 points goes to James Tedesco on his try saver against Kenny Bromwich this week.
That was best hands thanks to Schnitz. Bite into golden, delicious, handcrafted Schnitz. After the break, we'll wrap up the first hour. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with a great Cameron Smith and Smithy. I've just had some breaking news come across my desk.
Yes.
I've always wanted to say that. Coming across my desk, Nick
Yes.
Kyrgios beats Benjamin Bonzi in the second round of the US Open, going through to the third round of the US Open. He does it in 4 sets. The great Nick Kyrgios. So he's through. He's through to the third round. Hopefully he goes on a massive, massive run. But we've also got some more texts here. Is Lodge considered one of the best buys this season, considering what he's added to the Roosters forward pack?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts there, Kempy?
Mate, what a pickup. What a pickup. And then, look, he's got to check it past. And, you know, there were comments around, you know, Roosters have always had the whole certain policy around who they do or don't recruit. But, you know, at the end of the day, they're trying to win footy games, and Lodge has helped them win footy games.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they, you know, the Roosters being the organisation that they are and the smarts that they have running the club, I think they would have done their homework thinking, well, you know, is there a huge risk in recruiting this guy? What are the positives that he's going to bring to us? And he's certainly shown that there's a big upside to him being at that club this year, no doubt.
Absolutely. So he's really delivered since signing with the Roosters. It's going to be interesting to see if he stays next year. I don't think he's signed yet. Now, we're going to head to a break. But after the break, here's rugby union, the big scary monster. Is it going to raid the ranks of the NRL, or will the NRL players stick to rugby league? But we've got Jace from North Parramatta. You there, Jace?
Yeah, g'day, Kempy. G'day, Smitty. Love the show, boys. It's brilliant 3 hours in the morning. So, yeah, thanks for that.
On you, Jace. What do you got for us, mate?
Mate, I actually, I'm a Kiwi. I'm looking forward to the World Cup coming up. So Jordan Ricky is one of the players. He made the squad for the Tonga test earlier this year. One of the things I always look at for Jordan, and you know, he's got the physical attributes. He's a brute of a second rower, and I'm sure that football departments will meet formally and informally with players about form and ways to improve and all that sort of stuff. Smitty, I actually kept thinking of something that I heard about Jesse Bromwich when he first got to the Storm. There was some discussions that happened around, you know, what he wanted to get out of his career. And, you know, he is obviously, he ended up being, you know, there was a period there where he was the best prop in the world. But I seem to recall something about a discussion. I don't know if it was Craig or something like that. Just basically letting him know what he needed to do to get to the top of the tree. Is that pretty much right?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think that would be most players that have come through the front door of the Melbourne Storm, where they sit down and have discussions with the coaches, and in particular Craig Bellamy. Yeah, there's certain reasons, of course, why they're recruited to the Melbourne Storm, and the coaching staff and the recruitment staff have seen something in particular about their game and about their personality that they feel that will help the Melbourne Storm, but can also be in their organisation where the staff can help them. But there's no doubt that players need to sit down and decide what type of player they want to be and what they want to get out of their career. It's no use just rocking up to your first preseason or your second preseason or your 5th or your 10th or 15th, whatever it is, if you're lucky enough to play that long, and not have some sort of idea about what your season looks like and what you want to achieve throughout that year and throughout your career. Like, you should have goals about what type of player you want to be and the things you want to achieve individually. Of course, you want to be a part of a successful team and a team that has the opportunity to win a premiership. And you want to be a part of that. Like, you don't just want to go along for the ride. You want to be someone that contributes to winning a premiership. So, talking about Jesse Bromwich, of course, he would have sat down with Craig Bellamy and other coaches, looking after his particular part of the game. And I'm talking about guys looking after, front rowers or the forward pack, and spoke about, listen, these are your strengths. These are the strengths that we see and the reasons why you're at the Storm. This is what you need to continue to work on, and these are the things that you need to get better at to make you the best possible player, or for you to get the best out of yourself. Now, for Jordan Ricky, and that's what you're calling up to ask about, I'd like to think that Jordan Ricky, who's still a very young man and starting out his career, I'd like to think that he would have had a conversation with someone at the Broncos about that. Now, he's got two assistant. Obviously his coach is Kevin Walters, but he played his entire career in the halves. He played a little bit of dummy half, but that was really just filling in. But he played at 7 and number 6. But he's got two assistant coaches there in John Cartwright and Terry Madison, who were both, they were lock forward, back rowers, who two very good players who played representative football. So I'd like to think that Jordan Ricky has sat down with those guys and said, hey, listen, how do I become the best player I can be in this footy side? And that's just what it is. I'd hate to think that particularly the younger players in our game these days are just happy playing football and hoping for the best. I'd hate to think that when they get an opportunity to play first grade, they just think, oh, well, I've made it. This is. I pull on a jersey on the weekend. I just go out and hope for the best, and hope that it goes well for me, because it does not happen like that. If you have that mindset and you have that attitude towards your footy, then you're putting a lot of faith in luck through your career. And I remember Craig Bellamy always, like, he used to say to us players, if you choose to do something in life, like, want to be the best at it. If not, go do something else. Go do something else. Like, don't just try and play footy and hope for the best. If you don't want to be the very best player you can be, then go and do something else and give someone else another opportunity.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's it is. I see the striking similarities between Jordan and Jesse, both Māoris, both from that background. Sometimes culturally, it's difficult, to when you're very respectful, which I know that everyone is down at the Storm, and when you're young, you generally take leads from the elder players and things. And,
yeah, of course.
I just think, looking at Jordan, he's got so much. His physical attributes are just incredible.
Yeah,
and it's that putting it in with a bit of aggression. I actually saw his game against the Tigers, I believe it was earlier this year, where he looked like he was pumped. And sometimes, I think that's difficult. It's hard for players to get to those levels, but I'd love to see him reach his potential. That's basically my thoughts.
Yeah, just quickly with Ricky obviously being an ex-Bronco, I think at the moment, because he is so naturally gifted, he can get away with a lot more that, maybe some battlers don't. And then once he realises he can not only be so naturally gifted, but if he can make his work ethic, and I'm not saying he doesn't work hard, but I'm saying if he can lift his work ethic up to the standard of his natural ability, he will be one of the most damaging back rowers in the competition. And that will come with time. He's still super, super young. He's only 22 years old. But I guess he's going to have to, just like what Smithy said, he's eventually going to have to sit down and say, okay, yeah, I'm playing first grade, and you know what, I can get by and do my thing and get paid. Or do I want to take that next step and be the best version of myself. And I think he will eventually. It's just going to take a little bit of time. And also, I think on top of all of that, it's going to take pressure because at the moment, he's out and out the back row of the Broncos, and there's not that much pressure on his position. As soon as the squad at the Broncos starts getting better, I think you'll start seeing Ricky respond to that and being like, oh, okay, I've got to lift my game just a little bit. So I agree with you. I think he's got so much potential, mate. So much potential.
Yeah, no, that's it, boys. And thank you very much for taking my call. And I'm really I'm frothing for those bloke jerseys, Kempy. Especially if they make me look like Nico Hines.
Mate,
you got the long curly locks, Jace?
Well, I can grow them.
Mate, we might have to release a black and white one in that design. I think they'd go all right, a black and white one. Anyway, mate, thank you so much for calling. I really do appreciate it.
I'll do the hucker in it if we do.
Legend, mate.
On you, Jace.
Thanks, mate. That's a great call from Jason, and really great point. Jordan Riki, he's so much potential. It's just about those little things you learn when you get into first grade squads about the extras that you need to do to take that next step. Now let's talk about Joseph Suaalii, rumoured move to rugby. Now Rugby League, Rugby Australia, allegedly, reportedly on the grapevine, all that good stuff, are prepared to offer the 19-year-old $10 million over 5 years. Now Rugby, the reports have come out and said, we aren't prepared to offer $2 million per year, and the reports were around $1 million. This is a case where I'm like, if they think they're going to pull him from rugby league for $1 million a year, they're kidding themselves. But if it is around the 10 million mark, I think he may entertain it. What do you reckon with the World Cup coming up? Is there a chance we lose guys like Suaalii or some other players?
Well, the thing you got to worry about, Kempy, I think, is the cash available to rugby union, and if they do have $10 million there to spend over a 5-year period for Joseph Suaalii, I think we do have to be worried, don't we? Because that's always that. There's not a single player in the NRL that will be paid $2 million.
No,
not a single player. You cannot pay them that much.
At least another decade.
No, with a salary cap where it's at the moment, because if you paid them that much money, it's just you wouldn't have a squad around them. Yep. You just wouldn't be able to do it. So I think if that's true, if the reports are true and saying that they can pay one of our young superstars $10 million over 5 years, then I think we do need to be concerned. We really do.
Well,
because you don't want to be losing these young men to another code, particularly when he's showing so much potential and promise in our sport in only his first year. He's just a baby. He's just turned 19, I think. So he is for me this year, I'd pick him in the Kangaroos.
Absolutely.
I'd pick him on the wing for the Australian side for the World Cup. Now I know he can play for Samoa. He's eligible to play for Samoa. Has he nominated as yet? Do we know? I'm not too sure, but he's eligible for both. But if I'm a part of the Australian selection panel, I'm picking Joseph Suaalii on the wing. Straight up.
Oh, mate, I totally agree. Now, in regards to whether they can afford it, with the World Cup coming, I think they can, I guess, bank on a lot of revenue coming into the game with the World Cup being held in Australia.
Okay.
And so I think that is the concern of they most likely will have a fair bit of money to throw around, understanding that the World Cup in Australia is going to generate, the amount of money is just going to be crazy.
Yep.
And so I agree with you. If they have that kind of money to throw around, we absolutely have something to worry about, because in a Suaalii situation, if he goes and takes that 5 years deal, he's going to be 24 when it's done.
Yeah.
Just come straight back into NRL.
That's right.
You know what I mean? He'll be fine.
Yeah, I know. Just go pick up your $10 million and come back, and you're still a young man.
And then you come back here for at least $1 million a year.
Yeah. And then it's hard, because then the questions raise, how can the NRL as a sport do more or help to keep those young stars from being poached? I'm not sure. And to be fair, I haven't really had an opportunity to sit down and think about this at length, but certainly you can't be handing out, like incentives, like financial incentives to stay, because then that just makes it unfair to the rest of the competition, because not every team has a Joseph Suoli'i in it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
So,
absolutely.
like, not every team in the competition has a Joseph Suoli'i who is on the radar of, Rugby Australia. So, if the NRL come out and say, "Oh, look, to keep our young stars, we'll just bolster their income," well, then that's pretty much just saying, "Oh, we'll give that club that they play for extra money on the cap." That's what it's saying.
Yeah,
and I think that's unfair. So I don't know. Do we just sort of sit back and wear it as well and just say, look, there's nothing we can do. If he chooses to go, then that's his decision. Another superstar will come through soon, and you bank on another young person coming up through the ranks who is going to be the next superstar. I'm not too sure, but it's certainly going to be very difficult to match that type of money if that's on the mark. If that $2 million offer is on the mark, then it'll be very hard to match.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one because you're totally right. If you were to say, look, let's keep a war chest for our game superstars, guess what? All the superstars are in the best sides. So
already,
you're literally giving more salary cap to the best sides. Now, I agree with you. I'm not sure what the answer is, because you could go, all right, well, how about this? If Suoli'i gets an extra $1 million, then everyone else gets an extra $1 million. But then it just becomes an absolute, it becomes unmanageable.
Yeah.
I really don't know what, I just don't know what the answer is to this. I'd really, it's maybe something that we have to have stronger contracts so they can't break. I'm not sure. It's a tough one. I do think that we'll probably lose at least one or two players, maybe one, I think, because the opportunity of playing a World Cup, it is something that you're never, ever going to replicate, in rugby league.
Well, and that was one of the main reasons why Sonny Bill Williams went over to and did his rugby stint, wasn't it? Because he wanted, number one, he wanted to represent All Blacks. He wanted to be a part of the All Black system, and he achieved that, and also to play in a World Cup, and he also got to do that. So, again, it comes back to the individual, and it's very hard to compete when rival codes and sports have so much money to spend where we don't.
Yeah, absolutely. We got in regards to Suoli'i, get rid of the salary cap. Teams will fold, but there's too many already. Let private owners come in and write the checks, and let clubs keep players that they want. It's the way of the future. NRL is so far behind other major sports. Black Stump Eel. That's a text from Black Stump Eel. Oh, mate, is there that much money floating around in Australia to be able to run?
Don't think
14
so.
clubs privately? Oh, I don't think so.
Don't think so.
I don't think so. And it would be the Wild West, all of their fan allegiances. We just don't have the population to support it, I don't think.
No.
We're going to head to a break, though. But after the break, we've still got plenty to talk about. We've got Bailey Ladders. Which young fellas are climbing up the Bailey Ladders? But make sure to text in 0457 736 736 or give us a call, 1300 01 1170. Let's break our call record. I think we might be on a run to break our call record. So give us a call, 1300 01 1170, and we'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith and myself. Time to break down which young players climbing up the Bailey ladder. Worksite trusted for 60 years. So if you're looking for a ladder for the worksite, get a Bailey ladder, they're the best in the business. But Smithy, who is climbing up the Bailey ladder this week?
Yeah, once again, we've got some young men playing great footy across the weekend. Cleese Haas, number one. So made his debut over across the weekend for the Titans, and in their strong victory against the Newcastle Knights. Only 20 years of age, he ran for 50 metres, made 20 tackles in just 30 minutes of game time for the Titans. He's one to watch out for. Of course, is Payne Haas's younger brother. And guess what, Kempy? He's a Queenslander.
Oh, yeah. That is going to be.
Yeah, played junior football for the Robina Raptors, which is it's based. Their junior footy club is right behind Seabus where the Titans play. And I caught up with Payne Haas at the game actually. And I said, mate, like, is that going to be weird? You're playing for New South Wales and possibly your brother taking you on for Queensland. That's never happened.
That'd be incredible. That'd be
incredible. So good. So well done to Cleese Haas making his debut for the Titans and a strong performance too in only 30 minutes. Nomination number 2, it goes to Raymond Tuimayala Vanga. Made his debut, of course, another player for Manly, only 22 years of age. He ran for over 130 metres and had 5 tackle breaks in the losing side against Canberra in the nation's capital.
He looked strong. He looked very strong.
Wonderful debut for the young man. And my third nomination this week, it goes to Tommy Freeban. In just his 4th NRL games, the Tigers back rower, he scored 2 tries, ran for 100 metres, had 6 tackle breaks and 34 tackles. Now, that is a game and a half for a young guy that's played less than 5 matches, Tommy Freeban.
Yeah, I actually think Tommy, he's a veteran debuting. I think he's a bit older. I think he's been slaving away in reserve grade. I have to check on that. But he was outstanding on the weekend, Tommy.
So
he was absolutely outstanding. And, 2 tries on the edge there. He's a much-needed go-to guy because the Tigers, what do they lack? They lack a toiler, bloke that's willing to make the tackles. 34 tackles, 6 tackle breaks. So hopefully Tommy is there to stay. Also, if people with Haas and playing each other, the crazy thing is that Haas is still so young that it's a real possibility. It's not like Haas is 27 years old.
No, that's right. Well, Payne Haas is only, is he 3?
Yeah, 22.
Yeah, 22, maybe. 23. Like, he's not old at all. Like, I think Cleese must be the next one in line, but he's only 20. Like, there's every chance it could happen.
And so just with Tommy Freeban, he is 27 years old. So he's a battler. I love that. I love those stories.
Well, it's a older, younger player climbing the Bailey's ladder.
young in footy years. It's like dog years kind of thing. If you've played 2 years of footy.
Oh, okay.
NRL, sorry.
Yes.
You age. So you'd be about 1,000. You'd be about 1,000 years old, Smithy.
Hey, come on, I look it. I feel it some days.
That was thanks to Bailey Ladders, bringing safety and efficiency to the worksite for over 60 years. After the news, we'll begin our round 25 preview. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Thanks to the SEN app. Give it a download today for free on the App Store and listen anytime, anywhere. Also follow us on Apple and Spotify. The Captain's Run. So if you miss any of the great moments that happen on the show, you can listen to it at any time you want. Give us a call, 1300 01 1170, or text 0457 736 736, and give at SEN League a follow on your Instagram app. It's one of the great places for all your rugby league news. You've got guys like Smithy, Brandy, Vossi, Fletch. I mean, some of the biggest names in rugby league. Matty Johns as well. All the best talent in rugby league is with SEN on SEN League, so give it a follow. But now, Smithy, we've got a game tonight, game of footy. It's at CommBank Stadium. It's the Para Eels versus the Melbourne Storm. No changes to the Eels side, but Jerome Hughes is a late admission with a calf complaint, but all reports suggest it's more precautionary, nothing to worry about. Cooper Johns, who I think has had a great couple of games when he has come up, replaces him at halfback. Eisenhuth out for the season. He is replaced by Chris Lewis. How do you see this game panning out, Smithy?
Well, look, I was extremely confident around the Storm going up to Sydney tonight and playing really well and getting a victory against Para. Although Parramatta, they've got the wood over the Storm over the last couple of years. I think they've won the last 3 against Melbourne. But I just thought out of last week's game against the Roosters, they didn't start well. Roosters were very good. Don't get me wrong. They played really well and didn't allow Melbourne to get going the way they wanted to. But I just thought that would have been a good hit out for them leading into this match, and they would have gone up there and got a victory. But with the Hughes omission, I don't know. It makes things quite a bit harder for Melbourne now. Given his I thought he was probably the Storm's best last week.
For sure.
In a losing side, I thought he was quite dangerous when he had the footy, particularly late in the game. In the second half, he made a couple of line breaks. He was dangerous nearly every time he touched the football. And now with Cooper Johns coming in, I feel as though this is Cooper Johns' biggest game of his career. Playing in this one with so much on the line, there's such a difference between finishing 4th and 5th, because that's what will happen out of this game. Whoever wins this game finishes 4th. If Melbourne lose, they go to 5th. If Para lose, they could possibly they'll drop to 6th, because either the Roosters or Rabbitohs will leapfrog them. Given the Roosters and Rabbitohs are playing against each other, there's going to be a winner there. So there's plenty at stake for both footy sides. Parramatta on fire at the moment. Their attack has just been so good to watch over the last couple of weeks. The only concern I have for them, Kempy, is the form lines coming out of playing the Broncos. This isn't having a go at you, but just if you look at Melbourne, where they took on the Broncos 2 weeks ago, and they put 60 on them. Okay, 60, and they're like, how good are the Storm? Like, blah, blah. And then they turn up against the Roosters, who played a final style football game against them, and they struggled. They struggled for the most part. The effort and the work rate of their players was the thing that kept them in the game. It was nothing to do with the footy that they played, because, as I mentioned earlier, they were well below their best. And that's the only concern I have for Parramatta, is if they think they can turn up tonight against Melbourne, and it'll be like it was last week against the Broncos, I think they'll be in for a rude shock. That's the only concern I have for Parramatta. I don't see them as a team that aren't good enough to beat Melbourne, because they've shown that. They've beat them already this year. They've beaten the Penrith Panthers twice already this year. Only team to do so, to beat those two footy sides. They're certainly good enough to beat Melbourne. They just need to be, their mental preparation needs to be exactly on song to get this job done tonight.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. You don't want to be taking... Sometimes the last half of your last game can bleed into the start of your next game. And before you know it, you're 20 points behind, and you're going, oh, and then you're chasing. And how many times do we see a team have a massive win, then the next game, they go down by 20, and the whole rest of the game, they come out in the second half and they play like they're supposed to, and they just don't have enough to get the job done. We see it, honestly. We see it every single year. We really, really do. So I think that it all depends. It's going to sound obvious, really obvious, but it really does. It all depends on the start.
Yep.
If the Storm can frustrate the Eels and make them play sideways, and it's, the Eels are, it's almost, as a fan, it must be frustrating, because you can almost, in the first 20 minutes, see whether the Eels are going to be what we know they can be, or whether they're going to be, their worst kind of team, or the worst kind of way they can play. If they start going too lateral and they're not pushing through the middle, they're basically setting themselves up for getting beaten. And that's where I think if the Storm can force them into that kind of game style and have really, really strong line speed for the first 20 minutes and frustrate their forwards, Mitch Moses does have a tendency to go, okay, take things into his own hands. I'm going to start spreading the ball. That's where I think the Storm may be able to ambush them. What do you think, Smithy?
Yeah, look, I think for Melbourne, now with Hughes out particularly, I think it starts with their middles. What they need to try and do is they need to get on top of RCG and Junior Bolo, early, and give Harry Grant an opportunity to get out and start running. They need to see Harry Grant running from dummy half straight away. In the early exchanges, in the first 10 minutes, if Harry Grant can get out and have 2 or 3 runs early on and start building momentum through the middle, it'll give guys like Munster, Kenny Bromwich on that left edge, Cooper Johns some opportunity to play some football. If they don't, if they get held up in the middle and Parramatta do a good job with the play the ball speed and slow them right down, I think they might struggle to get in the game. As I'm saying, with Hughes out. Because Hughes can, Jerome Hughes can find opportunities just by himself. Like, he doesn't need a whole lot of sort of, options around him. He can just, as we've seen last week and many times over the last couple of years, he can, with nothing happening, he can just get the ball one off the ruck, take the line on, bang off his right foot, and away he goes. And then the Storm they're so good at going off, a half break, a line break, quick play the ball, and then they go to their strengths. But if Parramatta can really try and slow them down, which I think they will, they'll understand that the Storm really want to play an upbeat style of footy tonight. I think they can minimise the opportunities that those key players have. And for the Eels, Kempy, I think it's pretty straightforward. They got to find Sean Lane. He is in such good form at the moment, and I believe now his target will be Cooper Johns.
Yeah,
and so Cooper Johns has been in and out of first grade all year, although he's been playing football, playing in the Queensland Cup. He hasn't been playing consistently at the NRL level, so I think that's where Parramatta will be targeting heavily down that left-hand edge.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really the Eels have just got to be patient and super aggressive through the middle. Really, really aggressive. So it's going to be such a good clash. I really think there's going to be a great clash, and I think the Storm, because you're totally right. They can't really wait another week. The Storm cannot wait another week to hit their form. Yes, they're missing Hughes for sure, but they still have 13 other players that will most likely be there or thereabouts in squad selection. So, they've got to be playing really good footy. Great game tonight. Cannot wait. Now, Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs versus Manly Seagulls. Waddell is back from suspension in the second row. Stimson moves to the bench. Pangai Jr. is back on the bench after playing in New South Wales Cup last week. Now, Keo Weeks, I think it's Keo. I got a message saying it's Keo, not KO. Keo Weeks starts at fullback and Kula to centre. Ben Travojevic to the bench. Andrew Davey and Dylan Walker start. Ethan Bullymore moves to the bench. And Josh Aloiai has been dropped. Wow. What do you think happens in this game, Smithy?
Oh, Manly they've struggled since the Jersey round. They have. They have not been able to find any type of form at all. They've lost a couple more players, of course. They didn't play last week, Garrick and Jakey Trbojevic. I don't know. Maybe Bulldogs win this one.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think so.
Do you think so? Do you think they win this one?
Oh, well, I think Manly, when you look at the stats, Manly have had the sharpest decline of any team in the competition. Last year they won 17 games, I think.
Yep.
Now they've only won 9 games. They've dropped from, I think, was 3rd or 4th all the way down to 12th. 11th or 12th.
Yep.
They've had the sharpest decline of any team in the NRL.
Well,
and
you're right, mate. Their form has been the poorest out of anyone, though. They've lost 6. They've lost their last 6.
Yeah. And so I actually think there are way more concerns than winning footy matches right now at the Manly Seagulls Club. I think this is not put it this way, they're not just going to go into the off-season and then just come out next year and be all good. I think that there may be some movement in that squad before next season. I'm really concerned about the playing group. They just do not, when you watch them play, when you compare to the start of the year, they just do not have the same gel as they did at the start of the year. It's really, really concerning. And whereas the Bulldogs, although I think they've dropped off a little bit ever since Ciraldo was announced as coach and Potter isn't going to be the head coach, they don't have the concerns as a playing group, in my opinion, as Manly do.
No, you're 100% right, mate. I'm backing the Bulldogs. I think they found a little bit of form going into these final stages of the season, and I think they'll want to finish with a strong victory, which I think they'll get against Manly.
It's going to be really interesting because can you imagine Manly go out losing to the Dogs in their last game of the season? That's a bad end to a year. Not to say the Doggies haven't been playing well, but Manly were literally touted as premiership threats this year. Now, let's get to some few texts here. Hey, lads, do you think if Cows win this weekend and Sharks lose against the Knights this weekend, they can win it all? The Cows would be guaranteed an all-important home final if this happens. I know miracles are going to happen this weekend, but I feel the Cows deserve to win it this year after the year they've had. Cheers, Leo. Me personally, I think it's it puts them in really good stead if they can have 2 games in Queensland for sure. What do you reckon, Smithy?
Yeah, no, it puts them in a stronger position, of course, if they are able to jag that second spot. I don't think they will. Sorry, Leo. I think the Sharkies will win their final match against Newcastle, or they'd want to. If they want to win this premiership, they'd want to win this one because they're giving up a huge advantage if they are to lose, and the Cowboys win, and then they have to travel all the way up to Townsville to take on the Cowboys first week. So look, I don't think it's a greater advantage, and it gives them a better chance of taking out the premiership. I just feel as though Sharkies won't get beaten this week. So no matter the result with the Cowboys, I think they won't jump into second, unfortunately, Leo.
I will say, though, how good is it that either the Cowboys or the Sharks will be in a prelim this year?
Oh, it's outstanding.
You know what I mean? Like, at least one of them is going to be one win away from a grand final, which is pretty incredible to think. Both the clubs didn't make the finals last year.
Yeah.
Now they're going to be in a prelim this year.
Yeah, so good.
Now, we're going to head to a break. After the break, we've got 1,000 texts to get to, 1,000 texts. We've still got plenty of footy to review. So make sure to stay tuned because we've got so much more to talk about. We'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with the great Cameron Smith. We've got some texts here, Smithy. 1,000 texts.
What have we got, mate?
Guy, Manly's form had been quite down, but they are missing 11 of their top 17 this weekend. Mate,
Yep, fair point.
It's a fair point, but in saying that, it doesn't excuse the fall off this year from going from 3rd or 4th last year all the way down to 12th. It's been a very, very poor year for Manly Seagulls, in my opinion. I don't know about you, Smithy.
Yeah, no, they were a footy side that were playing finals, second week of finals last year, and they showed glimpses this year. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, it's been a sharp decline, as you mentioned, Kempy, in this last sort of 4 or 5 weeks.
Now I've got some more text here. Hey lads, thoughts on Ezra Mann being pushed back into reserve grade and Gamble being put into the side? Cheers.
To be honest, I was a little bit surprised, not taking out the situation with Tyson Gamble and the possibility of him moving on. I was a bit surprised that they took Ezra Mann out. He made his debut this year. I actually feel as though that Ezra Mann's been out there doing quite a good job. He's been holding his own. He's been out there, getting involved in defence, and I actually thought he was quite dangerous with the footy last week. But yeah, I think probably the reason why Gamble's been put in there is the way he competes. There's no question about that. He goes out and he's a competitor, and he gets under the skin of the opposition. So maybe that's what Kev Walters is looking for this week from his number 6.
Yeah, it's interesting. Look, if we were still fighting for an 8 spot, and I know technically we are, I can understand the decision because Ezra Mann in attack has been incredible, but just the last few weeks, I think he's missed like 9, 8 tackles a game. And so I think that's where they talked a lot about at the start of this year. All selections were based on defence. And I think that may be where they're leaning with Gamble. He's a bit of a bigger body. But because we're not really competing for the 8 anymore, I am surprised that they dropped him because it's like, well, you may as well keep him in there. Gamble's leaving. We can't really make the 8. The more games Ezra Mann gets, the better. He is definitely the long-term 6 at the club. He's incredible.
Yep.
So I think my understanding would be just drop just due to the physicality in defence. Maybe he just needs a little bit longer to beef up maybe. I'm not sure. I know he missed... It's tough because he missed 9 tackles, I think, against the Storm, but he had Nelson Asafa-Solomona run at him. So it's like kind of understandable.
That's a common occurrence.
Yeah. And then last week he missed 8 tackles. So, I think this was always going to be his biggest hurdle. Any person that sees Ezra Mann play with the ball, you can tell this kid is an incredible talent. Yeah. The toughest part of his career is going to be just working on the defence. And once he rounds that out, oh, wow, look out. Yeah. Seriously, I cannot wait. We are going to head to a break. After the break, we got plenty of more footy to review, including the massive clash, Roosters versus Rabbitohs in the new stadium. See you on the other side. Boys, with so many... this is text from Smithy. This is a text. We've got some texts here.
Yes.
Welcome back to the Captain's Run. We're just going to get through them quickly because we've only got a little bit of time.
Yep.
Hey, boys, with so many Pacific Islanders, boys pledging allegiance to other countries, do you think the Kangaroos will be light in the middle come World Cup?
Well, they'll be depleted.
Yeah. Tino, if Payne Haas play for Samoa, it could leave Oz a bit vulnerable through the middle. You also got Junior Paulo, who is selected, he's pledged. Kofusi is also pledged for Tonga.
Mm-hmm.
What do you reckon, Smithy?
Oh, mate, it leaves us light on. There's no doubt about that. There's so many great players there that play in the middle of the field. And again, it's, we've spoken about this eligibility stuff, and particularly guys playing State of Origin and then choosing to play for countries outside of the Australian team. It leaves the forward pack in particular quite light on.
Now, another text here. Gamble is kidding himself and points to the frustration of some of the game's youngsters. Where is his respect for one of the game greats? Kevy would run rings around all the players, and this is from a bloke who can't stand the Broncos. That's from Shane.
There you
Thanks,
go. Well, he might be a little bit too old to run rings around him, but he certainly. I think we made the point, didn't we, that he's got a great knowledge of the game that we play.
Mate, absolutely. Now we're going to head to a break. After the break, we've got some news regarding the Dolphins. So we'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with the great Cameron Smith. And we were just going back over the last few hours, and I said that the Sharks, the Cowboys, were guaranteed a prelim, which was so good for the game. And I need to correct that. If they win this weekend, they are guaranteed a prelim.
Yes.
I was more thinking of the mind that they'll finish second and third.
Yes.
But yeah, look, I'll be honest though, I think they will win this weekend.
Yeah, of course.
But I just wanted to correct it because I know there'll be some fans
You're a
out there
perfectionist.
going, mate, well, maybe not. If you looked at me. Yeah. If I was, I'd be in a much better place in my life, Smithy. Let's put it that way. But anyway, just wanted to correct that to make sure that the fans knew I wasn't just saying they would dominate Penrith and they had no chance of losing. Now, on to a call from Sharky in Nowra, the great Nowra.
Boys.
How you going, Sharky?
What's doing, Cameron? You going good? I've got a couple of things to ask you too. Right?
Yeah, what do you got, mate?
If you finish in the top four, Cameron, end of the year, you're very disappointed. It's a failure if you don't make week 3 of the finals, eh?
Sorry, mate, say that again. If we finish top 4...
and you don't make week 3 of the finals, I consider that a failure. Do you agree?
Well, I think from the Storm's point of view, mate, yeah, of course. I think so.
Okay, what?
Yeah.
I'm just going to run this by you. If Parramatta win tonight, which means Cowboys got a guaranteed third spot, yeah? Done.
Yep.
Would you really want to go out and risk your star players, being Nanai, Townsend, Drinkwater, whoever, right?
Mm-hmm.
On a 15% chance that the Sharks are going to lose to the Knights? Because I'm thinking you're playing a Penrith team, and for Penrith to get an advantage here, I'm not saying they will, but it is rugby league. A few little cheap shots here, twist of a leg or whatever, a bloke's out injured, all of a sudden that's not bloke's not available for the finals. If I'm Todd Payton and Parramatta win tonight, I'm resting my stars because either way, North Queensland get the second week host final anyway, and you've got to think of it this way. No matter who they're playing in North Queensland, if we're in front of a sellout crowd, I'd back North Queensland to make the preliminary final anyway.
Yeah. But
you know what I'm saying there, Cameron?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a fair point, and it's a fair argument, to be honest. And I'll tell you what, I'll tell you furthermore to that. I think if going off, the result tonight between Parramatta and Melbourne, if Melbourne are to lose, so if Parramatta knock off the Storm, Parramatta will finish 4th. The Storm, really, on for and against, they should finish 5th. I think they can, at a low percentage chance of going lower. Say they lose to Parramatta tonight. If I'm the Roosters or Rabbitohs, I'd almost think about, if I'm the Roosters, I'd almost think about resting some of my stars. Because if Storm get beaten, it's highly unlikely that the Roosters can further their position other than 6th. So there's a couple of... it's a good argument that you make because it's the same thing. And then, it's the same situation that the Roosters find themselves in as the Cowboys, where they know they're not going to change position. So why risk players' health through either injury or even a suspension. Like you think about the sort of the knife's edge that Jared Weir-Hargreaves plays on. So you'd almost go, well, Melbourne have been beaten. We're pretty much guaranteed 6th v 7th the following week. Let's just, hey, Jared, you're having a rest. Joseph Suoli'i, you're having a rest. James Tedesco, you're having a rest. Just take your big stars out and just go, hey, boys, let's get ready for next week, first final.
Same on Sunday at the Sharks. If the Cowboys rest and they lose, they won't play all the stars on Sunday either.
Yep.
The only thing, and I'd hate to be a party pooper, fellas, I think that once you name your squad, you can't actually move more than 2 players out of it. I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Just claim COVID. Fine.
No, but then they might miss the following week, mate. A bit like Cookie.
Yeah,
they might miss 2 games. I'll tell you what might happen, Kempy. It might just be you might go down with, 4 little tight calves at the captain's run. Have to make a late change.
Well, I mean, exactly, because I like let's say you go, okay, who are the most important? Let's just go Roosters. Let's rest 2 players because you can make 2 changes. Hargreaves and Tedesco. And then Joey and Suoli'i.
Yep.
In, the warm-up or whatever.
Yep.
Just need a little twinge.
Absolutely.
Twinge.
I think Sharky from now, I think it's a great argument that he brings up.
It's why a buy before finals would be,
Yep, which is
a good idea.
Which is what the AFL are doing.
Yeah. So, mate, great call from Sharky from Nowra. Great call. What I love about that call too, it's so in deep in the tactics of preparing for finals because it's almost a new season, Smithy. I mean, you could speak way more on it, but is that what it kind of feels like?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty much. So once this round is over, the bottom 8 teams they go on and have their little end of year celebrations and whatnot. But the top 8 teams, it starts again. It really is, and that's your focus when you get into finals. It just you got to hit the reset button. Everyone's back at the starting line again, because we as we mentioned at the start of the beginning of this show, Kempy, there's Raiders being sort of particularly outsiders. Every other team in that top 8, if they turn up and play their best football, they can beat any other team in this top 8 final series. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt about that. So your mindset has to be, if Penrith, they're the minor premiers, they're finishing on top. If you're a player in any of those other sides, in the Sharks, Cowboys, Eels, Storm, Roosters, Rabbits, and Raiders, you just go, hey boys, let's go. Let's just be the best team in the final 4 weeks.
Yeah.
If we are that, we take out the whole thing. Forget about the previous 25 weeks. Means nothing. Means nothing. We've put in the hard work to get ourselves here in the final series. Let's just be the best team for the final month, and we win it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really is. The finals footy, the level increase, it is substantial. It is, honestly, you can feel it. You can, when you're on the field, the tension in the air, it's just a whole different ballgame. And some teams respond differently. Like, you could argue, maybe the Raiders do respond really, really well to that pressure just because they're such a gritty team under Ricky. So,
yeah,
I'm just using Raiders as an example because they're considered the outsiders. Other teams could do it as well.
Kempy, we just had a good text actually from Matt, and I think we may have spoken about this maybe a fortnight ago about how they do the final round in the EPL, how they all kick off at the same time.
Yep.
So Matt's texted in and said, "Hey boys, to avoid all these permutations as far as watching a team play Thursday night and looking at a result and then deciding if you're going to play players or rest players, to avoid this situation, why not set up the final round of our season and everyone kicks off at the same time?"
Oh, wow. I'd have to go and buy 8 TV.
Imagine that, though.
Mate,
imagine that. I'd love to hear what our listeners think of that. Like, just text in and give us your thoughts. But final round of the NRL, like imagine these matchups this week, not knowing, like there's so many teams can move. not knowing where they're going to be. Like they'll all finish within, say, 5 or 10 minutes of each other.
It'd be
unbelievable. That's what it would be.
Yeah, the suspense. You got, for example, you've got Eels versus Storm, so that's picking the fourth. You've got Broncos versus Raiders in the sense I'm just talking about versus in first positions.
Yes.
Then you've got Cowboys and Sharkies that are vying for that top two.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are so many games right now that you would be, suspensefully focusing on, following, because the result could change everything. So I don't mind it. I really don't mind it. I also think that you may actually get more people to the games as well because, it's more of an event kind of thing.
Yep.
So actually, I don't mind that at all. Now, we have not breaking news because it's been around for a bit now, being reported at least.
Mm-hmm.
Christian Wolf. The Dolphins have snared the hottest coaching property in World Rugby League.
Wow.
That's what I've been told anyway.
Yep.
With a signing of Christian Wolf
mm-hmm.
on a long-term deal. Wolf is the current St. Helens coach in the English Super League.
Yep.
He will be the assistant to Wayne Bennett, the greatest grand final winning coach in Australian Rugby League. In 2020, the former Cowboys, Broncos and Knights assistant took up an opportunity with the English glamour club St. Helens.
Yep.
Under Wolf, St. Helens have won the last two Super League grand finals, the 2021 Challenge Cup final, and have just claimed the 2022 English Super League minor premiership. It said Wolf had amassed a strong coaching resume that made him the Dolphins' #1 target for the position. Quote, Christian has done his time as both an assistant and a head coach and done everything right to deserve this opportunity. Christian has done the deal to bring his family home to Queensland, and I am certain he is going to be a great asset to the Dolphins and is next in line as a head coach of the club.
Yep.
Also, just quickly, I'm pretty sure he was the coach of Tonga when they beat Australia.
Yeah, no, so he is currently the Tongan coach still. So he'll coach them in the World Cup this year, I believe.
So, I mean, he's got all the resume that you would ever want in an assistant coach. He was actually at the Broncos when I was there as well. Really, really affable guy. Really easy to get along with, but also a bloke that demanded respect. He just has, some people have that presence.
Yep.
He absolutely has that presence. Now, the plan reportedly will be that Wayne Bennett will coach 2023, 2024, and Christian Wolf will take over as coach in 2025. What do you think about this whole setup, Smithy?
Yeah, I think it's smart by the Dolphins to have the succession plan that they've built here. So they get in a guy that knows rugby league, that he knows more about rugby league as far as the current coaches go than any other coach in the competition. He's been around the game that long, and he's been involved in a lot of successful footy clubs. To have him, kickstart the Dolphins franchise in the first couple of years, get them up and running. He's played a huge part in attracting some key commercial partners that they've built. Like they've got a very strong commercial partnerships going up there at Redcliffe. So I think he's been a key part of that. But just to be able to get some players in over the first couple of seasons and really just get them going, build an environment there where it's built on hard work but success as well. They want to be successful as quickly as they can be, and then to find a guy like Christian Wolf, who has had he's had a lot of success over in England coaching St. Helens. I think in his first season alone, I think it was something like an 80% winning record at the club. And as you mentioned, he's won a couple of premierships and a Challenge Cup over there. So it looks like he'll win another one. Well, they're on their way, the Saints, to win another Super League competition over there this year, which would be fantastic for him, a way to sign out. But I think I've seen some comments as well from him saying that, it wasn't just an opportunity to be a part of the Dolphins to come home. As for personal reasons as well. I think they've spent a couple of years over in England, he and his family, and he felt it was the right time to return home. And I think it's great. It's smart business by the Dolphins. to have a guy who's coached at a successful organisation like St Helens. He's been involved in international rugby league with the Tongan side for many years now, and he knows what winning is. He knows how to get the best out of his players. And was it 2025 that you said, Kempy? I think he'll be in a very good position to take over from Wayne Bennett.
Now, I've got a serious question for you. Do you think Christian Wolff will take over Ciraldo's mantle as the most famous assistant coach of all time?
Well, it all depends on results, I guess, Kempy.
No, I'm joking about the fact that Ciraldo was the most.
Well, he's the most talked about assistant coach, wasn't he?
He's got to be the greatest assistant coach of all time. I'm going to throw it out there. GOAT, Ciraldo, GOAT assistant coach. I'm throwing it out there. Just quickly before we go to a break, just a little factor about the Dolphins. They actually come into the comp, and I'm pretty sure they become the richest club in the comp. In regards to, they have a setup where when they came in, apparently they had somewhere between $80 to $100 million in the bank.
Yeah, no, I think it might be plus. I think they may have in excess of $100 million sitting in the kitty, which is pretty handy.
Oh,
and I think to be fair, Kempy, I think that's one of the main reasons why the NRL chose the Dolphins to be the expansion club is because you could just say there's your license. Away you go. You've got a business model there that obviously works, and you can just take care of yourself. We don't need to worry about you or babysit you, and have any concerns about any type of revenue or financial issues. As you said, mate, as soon as they start October 1 or whenever it is, October 2, they become the wealthiest club in the competition.
Yeah, I just think it's a factor that a lot of people aren't really, adding to the equation of, their roster needs, a marquee here or there. But that kind of money compared to other clubs, I mean, we've got other clubs that some coaches have, we'll talk about Manly, like Trent Barrett had a real issue with in regards to the setup that they had there. He thought that they needed to progress with the equipment that they needed more at Manly. And so there are clubs that just do not have the same resources put into the sports side of things. And I think Redcliffe, it's going to be interesting to see if that plays a factor. It's a lot of cash. It's a lot of cash. If you go to Broncos club right now, their setup is absolutely incredible. And it is a part of rugby league you don't really hear much about, but the impact it has on teams is massive.
Yep.
A team that has a lot of resources off the field compared to a team that doesn't, you'd argue that's an advantage. But sorry, mate.
Just quickly, but that's been capped now. The NRL have capped it because they found that some clubs that like to tip a lot of money into their football department, they felt like they were getting an unfair advantage, so they've capped it. So in essence, they've made it. They've dragged all the clubs that want to spend money in their football department. They've dragged them back to the teams that don't want to, and made it. Just trying to. They're rewarding. They're rewarding the sides that don't invest money into their football, which is crazy.
Wow.
Anyway.
And so that includes equipment. Like, so for example...
Oh, it's all of it. I think it's just overall spend.
Yeah, wow.
Yep.
Even equipment. That's really... I don't know about that. I don't know. I think that's a bit harsh on the teams that are willing to risk creating centres of excellence and all that kind of stuff.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, sorry. I think centres of excellence, I think any sort of buildings and infrastructure, I think that's just up to the club. But I mean, like in the cap, as far as when you're talking about, training programs and staff and all that sort of stuff, there's limitations on what teams can spend these days.
Welcome back to the Captain's Run with the great Cameron Smith. Now it's time for Holy Schnitz. What was your Holy Schnitz moment of the week, Schmitty?
Holy Schnitz was when Liverpool, right, took on Bournemouth 9-0. 9-0. Now, I know you're a huge fan of the soccer. 9-0. Are they fair dinkum?
Seriously?
Bournemouth?
How does that happen?
And I'll tell you what did happen. The manager got punted straight after the game. I think he walked into the sheds. The boss was down there and said, mate, you're out. Gone.
You know what's crazy is that manager actually got them into the Premier League, and it was only 4 matches in.
Oh!
So he got the sack after getting the club into the Premier League.
Wow.
Mate. Anyway, I've got a holy schnitz.
Hang on, I haven't finished my holy schnitz.
Apologies.
And what the end of my holy schnitz was seeing that score, right? But then the team I follow, Arsenal, 4 from 4, Kempy. Let's go, the Gunners. Let's go.
Arsenal, they have a documentary on Prime Video, All or Nothing.
Get around it.
Get around it. You should watch it. It's really interesting.
I will.
I got a holy schnitz moment.
Okay.
It was Kyle Felt's try. It was incredible.
Oh,
Absolutely
yes.
incredible.
Yes.
Absolutely yelled holy schnitz. But they were our holy schnitz sporting moments thanks to Schnitz. Got that winning taste right now. Schnitz, handcrafted schnitzel, made fresh and made just for you. After the break, we'll continue our round 25 preview, including match of the round brought to you by Suncorp. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Now it's time for our match of the round, Smithy. Absolutely huge clash, and it's almost poetic. This rivalry to open the new stadium, Allianz Stadium, and it looks incredible. If you head over to Fox and you watch Matty Nable's promotion of it, it makes you want to put the boots back on, Smithy. I'm telling you that right now. Now, look, no one's asking me to put the boots back on, that's for sure, but it makes me want to put them back on. So time now for a game of the round, and we do that thanks to Suncorp. Get award-winning car insurance with Suncorp. They have won 7 years in a row. So if you need car insurance, Suncorp's the place to get it. Now, Sydney Roosters team, Collins, Tupou, Victor Radley, they're all out. Drew Hutchinson starts at left centre, Momorowski to wing, Toki Auho starts at lock, Terrell May, Fletcher Baker are the new faces on the bench. South Sydney Rabbitohs team news, Damien Cook is still out with the Rona, while centre, Campbell Graham is out with an injury. Well, I think he was more just rested because of his last week, obviously he had that head knock.
Yep.
Havili starts at hooker, Jason Paulo moves to centre, and Peter Momazelis is the new face on the bench. Coach Jason Dimitri will also miss the match due to the Rona. What do you think about this match, Smith?
Yeah, huge game. A lot of history involved here. 113 years ago, this rivalry started, Kempy. 113 years ago. And it's still alive and well today. They've been at each other all week, haven't they? They've been at each other about, training here and training there. Or why can't we get on this stadium? And, oh, no, this is our turf and we belong here. It's been great to watch. It's been funny at times.
Oh, it's so good.
It's a footy field, fellas.
Yeah,
seriously.
On.
Really?
It's a footy field.
But I must say, I would be a bit dirty too if I didn't get a run. Captain's run at least before the match. Yeah, what it does.
Our producer is he's a Roosters man. And
he's a tragic.
He's nodding his head like it's yeah, mate. They shouldn't get our ground. It's typical Roosters, mate. Typical.
Yeah, well, that's Tommy, of course, our producer. So anyway, Tommy? Do you own the stadium? Do you?
I think they do. Isn't that what Roosters said?
Okay.
It's their stadium.
They decide. Anyway, hey, listen, plenty out for both sides. Lindsay Collins, of course, he misses a month. They have to make the grand final for him to play another game this year. Tupou, groin last week. Radley, concussion protocols. Cookie, big out for the Rabbits, Cookie, with COVID, and also the coach as well. I think the Roosters, if they don't make any more changes with results across tonight after tonight's match, I think they still have the firepower. I think the Roosters, and Tommy probably have a little grin on his face here, I think the Roosters have enough firepower to get past the Bunnies this weekend.
Yeah, look, I'm going to have to agree with you. The Rabbitohs last week, a lot of people talked about they played very conservative and they didn't look like the typical Rabbits. I will say a lot of that has to do with Damien Cook being out. I feel like last week if Damien Cook was in, they would be a bit more adventurous around the ruck and a bit more adventurous when they get to certain parts on the field. With Havili coming in, not being a starting hooker, it's much harder to get to the points of the field that you want because he hasn't been playing there all year. In saying all of that, although they got the win last week with South, I just think the Roosters are starting to hit some really, really good form. And just the way they attack games, you have to be in a certain mindset to withhold that and withstand that. And the Roosters are just taking games where in that first 20 minutes, they're so aggressive and their line speed is so ruthless, it almost shocks teams into submission. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Rabbitohs handle that. But I agree with you, mate. I think the Roosters are the team to get the job done tonight. How do you see the South Sydney Rabbitohs winning the game, though, if they can win it?
Oh, well, it's going to come down to Walker and Latrell, I believe. It really does. when you're taking out a threat of dummy half like Damien Cook, and I know Saliva Havili is a wonderful player, but he lacks that sort of that dynamic movement of a Cook. Yeah, when he senses an opportunity to run the ball off a half opportunity, just a player laid up off the ground, he goes. And he provides so much momentum for the other players like Cody Walker and Latrell. But I think the emphasis now will be on those two guys, particularly when they put their set pieces together, their set plays, and how fluent they are with their movements. But again, they're coming up against a very well drilled side who have come together as good as any team has over the last 6 weeks. And they're playing some really consistent footy.
Now, do you see a world where Roosters intentionally niggle Cody Walker and Latrell Mitchell?
Absolutely, I do.
Yeah,
why not?
Why?
Why wouldn't you? It's like playing within the rules, of course. Why wouldn't you push the boundaries when there's a history of particularly Cody Walker. Being distracted by those little niggling things from the opposition. I think he's shown a history of doing that, when players go out of their way to give him a little shove or a little bit of extra work on the ground, or maybe even just getting in his ear and talking to him, that it distracts him. It takes him away from the job at hand, and that's going out and getting his role done for the Rabbits. So I think, why wouldn't you?
Mm. Do you think Demetrio sits Latrell on that down and go, boys, whatever happens, just don't even bite. Because it's a fine line, isn't it? Yeah. You want him to be passionate.
Well, he'll have to do it over a phone call because he's not allowed near him because he's got COVID.
Yeah.
But I'm sure the other staff members would be saying to him, hey, boys, really need you to go out there and be leaders today. We need to, first and foremost, we need you to play well. But secondly, hey, no matter the situation, let's keep our cool and get out there and let's get the job done.
Now, that was our game of the round, thanks to Suncorp Car Insurance, winner of CanStar's Outstanding Claims Award 7 years in a row. Absolutely incredible. Now on to the New Zealand Warriors versus the Gold Coast Titans, Saturday, 3 p.m, Mount Smart Stadium. Warriors team news, Ewan Aiken, Jesse Arthurs, Wade Egan, Montoya, Berry all returned to the side, while Sean Johnson has been named despite suffering an ankle injury last week. And in the Gold Coast Titans, Philip Sammy replaces Brian Kelly at centres, who is out with suspension. How do you see this playing out? Me personally, I think that it's the end of the year. I would always back the home side because Titans travelling at the end of the year, it may be a bit tougher to get up. What do you think, Smithy?
Well, depending if I don't know if the Titans have booked a trip away off the back of this game, maybe down to Queenstown off the back of this match. I'm not too sure, but a little birdie told me that the Warriors, I'm hearing they lost 3 players at training yesterday.
No way.
3 more players. I think they lost 3 more players at training, which hasn't been mentioned or spoken about yet. But off the back of that, I think the Titans can go over there and win.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. 3 players. Did they say, these key players or just
there is one, the birdie said there was one of those players was a key position player, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. We'll see if they make the trip over to New Zealand and line up for the Warriors in their last home game of the year. So you'd like to think there'd be some sort of emotion in that, trying to give their fans a nice result to finish the season. But given the names that I heard tossed out yesterday, I think the Titans might go over there and get them.
Okay, now on to the next game. The Dragons versus the Brizzy Broncos, Nostrata Stadium, Jubilee Stadium at 5:30. We've got Anthony Griffin has named the same 17 that beat the Tigers last week. Brizzy Broncos, Paddy Carrigan, Selwyn Cobbo, Tyson Gamble all return to the starting side. Reynolds, Flegler have both been named despite suffering injuries last week. Brenko Lee is out with a hamstring. Kobe Hetherington out with a concussion. How do you see this game playing out?
It's a difficult one, but I'd like to think that I've been saying this the last few weeks, but I'd hope that the Broncos go down there with an attitude and a mindset that their season is still alive, because it is. When they play, their season is still alive. It won't be until the Raiders kick off against the Tigers the following day on Sunday afternoon at 4:00 that they'll have a greater understanding of whether they're playing finals footy or not. Their mindset needs to be, hey, we're going down to win because we're going to be playing in a semi-final next weekend. That's what their mindset needs to be. Now, I don't know whether, they go down with a greater confidence given Pat Carrigan's back. Cobbo's on the wing, of course. Tyson Gamble, there's a change there in the halves without Ezra Mam. I'm not sure what their feeling is within their group. As I said, whether there's a greater confidence there because of those players. I just think every player needs to have a mindset. Time will tell, but they need to be thinking, hey, we need to win this because we are playing finals football next week. It's just there's no two ways about it.
Yeah, look, if they can't get up for this game, in saying that, we said that last week and the week before, so I hope they really do. I want them to make the 8, but it's more about a bit of pride, boys. We are under the pump. We are under the pump.
Yeah.
It's give the fans something to be a bit proud of heading towards the end of the year. In regards to the Dragons, they weren't overly convincing last week at all. So yeah, I'm not sure how this goes, this game, if I'm being honest, but I'm just going to tip the Brizzy Broncos because I hope they get the win. Now, we're going to head to a break. After the break, we've still got a couple of games to preview. We've got the Cowboys, we've got the Panthers, we've got the Knights, the Sharks. Make sure to stay tuned and we'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with the great Cameron Smith. Now, we've got some games here. The Cowboys versus the Penny Panthers did and has been named in the reserves and could return at 5/8. Cohen Hess is out with suspension. Ruben Cotter starts and Griffin Neame joins the bench. Penrith Panthers. Panthers have rested 13 players for the final round. Jenkins, Henry, Cole have all been named to make their NRL debuts. Scott Sorensen is back from a calf injury. Eisenhuth and Mitch Kenny start. How do you see this game going, Smithy?
Yeah, look, I think they'll be well prepared and a well-drilled footy side. Penrith, there's no doubt about that. They're just a great organisation from top to bottom. But I think it might be just a little bit out of their class taking on North Queensland, particularly with Tom Dearden back. That's a quick return from a ruptured testicle. Only spending 1 week out. He's a tough man, Tommy. Breed him tough up there and sort of, where is he? Mackay. I think he was born and bred in Mackay. So he's a tough little dude. But yeah, look, I think given the amount of changes, like it's mass changes, 13 players rested. Smart move, of course, by Ivan Cleary and the footy team. But yeah, I think it might be just a little bit too tough for those guys taking that step up to NRL level against the Cowboys, who are running pretty hot at the moment.
It's almost like, I don't feel sorry for the Cowboys, but they're put in a bit of a tough position, don't you think? Because if they don't win by a lot, it's almost like a lose-lose. Like if they win by 6 points, that's almost a loss nearly. Again, I know it's technically not. I understand that. But I understand like the confidence hit that it could happen if they struggle. It's a really bizarre position they've been put in.
Yeah, look, mate, if I was part of the Cowboys side this week, I wouldn't be thinking, hey, we need to put a scoreline on this footy side. That wouldn't come into my mindset at all. I'd just be thinking, hey, listen, like this could actually be a little bit of a danger game for us. If we take a mindset in of saying, look, we need to smash them, and you're worried about the scoreboard, trying to make sure the scoreboard's ticking over the entire time the game's going, you could find yourself sort of getting a little bit lost in the match. I think they just need to approach this very professionally and play just a clinical style of footy. And if they win the game 18-6 or win the game, 20-6, hey, a win's a win. Really, that's what they need to be thinking about is let's get a professional, clinical 80 minutes under our belt, walk away with a strong victory, which we are happy with our performance, and we take confidence into the following week, which is going to be first week of finals.
Would you say almost some goals could be, X amount of missed tackles and a high, 85% completion?
Oh, look, absolutely, mate. I think they need to be thinking, completions. They need to be thinking, really tidy and disciplined with their defence. And making sure that, at the same time, you don't want to be just tucking the ball under your wing and worrying about getting to your kick. Like, you want to be playing some football as well. But that's what I'm talking about, playing a professional, clinical style of football that's going to hold up in the coming weeks when they're playing finals because they know they're going to get a couple of cracks at the cherry.
Yeah.
You know, finishing in the top 4, they're going to get a couple of weeks opportunities, whether it's win first week off prelim, or they don't get a result first week. They're then playing sudden death. Either way, they're going to have to play a couple of finals matches.
Absolutely. Now on to the Newey Knights versus the Cronulla Sharks. Crossland replaces Milford at 5'8", who was out with a rib injury. Croker replaces Sue in the starting side. Cronulla Sharks team Finucane is named in the reserves and could return from a rib injury. Ikavalu returns on the wing. How do you see this playing out?
I think Sharkies win this one. I don't know if you'd risk Dale. I'm certain he'd be bashing down Craig Fitzgibbon's door every day at training this week, saying, "Mate, I want to play. Let me play. I'm good to
Seriously.
go." I just think don't risk him. Get him right. Get him 100% fit for week 1 finals. For Newcastle, the one thing that they need to play for this weekend is a victory in front of their home fans. They get to finish at McDonald Jones Stadium in front of fans that have been turning up every week to watch them play, which has been an ordinary season for themselves. They just need to put in a big effort for their home fans. But I think Cronulla will be too strong.
Absolutely. If I'm Sharkies, I'm looking at my completion. They had 18 errors last week. Need to fix that. Now, we'll just do your tip for the Tigers Raiders because we're running out of time. What is your tip here?
I'm thinking Raiders. With so much on the line for them to play finals footy, I'm going to go Raiders.
I'm going Raiders too. Now, we're going to head to a break. After the break, we'll get to your texts. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Got plenty of texts here, Smithy. Hey, boys, would love to hear your thoughts on NRL introducing transfer fees for players who are traded from club to club. I think it would be a fantastic way for development clubs to get some reward for investing in youth. Cheers, McClay. Thoughts, Smithy?
Wow. Love transfer fees. I don't know. Does it get messy with transfer fees and all that sort of stuff?
Can we even afford them as clubs?
That's what I mean.
Barely any clubs make profit.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's a real tough one. But I do understand the tough situations, say, a Penrith or whatever, in when they feel like they've developed all these players.
Yep.
And then, they get raided and whatever. But I guess they're also getting the benefits from those developing players. They're the number one team in the competition.
Yeah.
So,
and then where does that money come from to pay transfer fees as well? You know what I mean? That's what I'm asking. We're already under the salary cap, and they need to spend nearly all of it every year. So, don't know where they find the extra cash.
Okay, that's another episode done and dusted. Thank you, Smithy, as always.
Oh, thanks, Kempy. You've been great again, mate.
Oh, thank you. What a way to end the week. Make sure to give us a follow on Apple and Spotify, and we'll see you next week.
See you later, guys.